In this video, we are going to take a look at JSON creation. So when you're returning an HTML document, a web page for the users to read, that's what we did earlier. But if you would like to create an API, then you probably would like to return JSON data and not XML as far either. So how can you do that with Dancer? It's pretty easy. Here we have the application. Just the main route, okay, with just some HTML, so that's not really the interesting part. The interesting part that there we have like three examples here how to return JSON, because it's not enough to return JSON to format the data as a JSON. You also usually need to set the header, the content type of the header to be application JSON. This is what usually indicates to the client that something needs to be displayed as a JSON, or a consumer that's really is JSON data and not some other format. Okay, so the first one is I created just a route called /API1. Doesn't really matter. I mean, probably if you're writing an API, then your API will something like be /API/ the version number of the current API / some request, some pass. But I didn't want to go that deep because it's not an application, just a demo for the returning of the JSON. I created here hash just with some basically random data, some key value pairs that I would like to return, and then the way to return it is to call the send as function of Dancer, say that as a JSON you're returning, and give the data structure, a reference to that data structure as the value of that key value pair. And so this is the first one. The other way, you can do the same and specifically set the content type. So here we have basically the same, okay, slightly different data, but the content type is set. So after the data, there's a comma, and then the content type or some other header. So you can, in general, you can set any of the headers. And finally, this is another way to do this, is that if you have the data, you can say push header. So it will add another header to the existing headers. It says content type application JSON, and then you yourself encoding the JSON, the data structure, the reference to the data structure using the encode JSON function that's again imported by Dancer 2. So if we go and take a look at the application on the command line, black up, and we visit the website, I think on the main page I put just one link to the API 1. If I click on it, for a second you could see the JSON, but because Firefox does this, I'm not even sure, maybe that's a plugin, it just shows me nicely because it understood that's JSON. I can click here raw data, and then you can see the actual JSON as it was returned, and here you can see it in a more nicer way, so to make it a little more user readable for a developer. And we can also look at the headers apparently here, and here it says that the header is application JSON. So this is the route 1, and just to remind you, here I didn't explicitly set that content type, but because I was calling send as JSON, Dancer automatically set the header, the content type in the header to be application JSON. In the second one, but it didn't include the character set UTF-8. The second request, so if we go to the second request, just replacing it with 2. Okay, here 2, you can see, let me also enlarge a little bit the fonts. So here you can also see this is the data in a nicely formatted way. The raw data, again, is just plain JSON, and the headers. And here you can see that the content type now is application JSON, and then also char set UTF-8, just as we explicitly set it. And finally, this route 3, if I change it here to 3, then again, this only had one key value pairs, the raw data again, and the headers. You can see here that I also set the header to application JSON. And just if we go back to the main page, okay, then the way I think to see the headers here, because that's just normal HTML, so that's just what the browser would normally show. So if we go back to the web developer that we I think already saw once, and then here we go to the network, where is it, networking, yeah, here. So, and we have to reload it so it will fill this, and here we can get in the request we can see, I saw that we can see the header type, yeah. So if I click on it, then it will say content type text HTML, and this is the header there. Okay, and let me just check again. So if I click on API 1, and then also, so you can look at the headers here, because that's what Firefox offers, and you can also look at the headers here inside, and it's also say that is application JSON. So you have two ways to see that. And then finally, you of course you have to write a test for this, and this is how you write a test. So this is just the main page. I was getting the slash, so requesting slash, and the most interesting part that I wanted to show is that here you can check that the header is the content type in the headers is text HTML charset UTF-8, just as we saw it in the browser. So you can test it if you like, because that's sort of at the end is important that if you wanted to send an HTML page, then the content type is going to be text HTML. And then here we have 3 subtests for the 3 API routes. So we say get and then API 1, check the status line, that to be 200, and then we can take the content. Okay, so we can take the content from the response object and decode it with the decode JSON function that for the purposes I included from the JSON maybe access module. And I will use this module because Dancer is already using it, so it's already going to be installed on your system, and then it will either use just regular JSON module or the access module if it's available. And so that's the first route here, and the content. So you can use isDeeply to check whether the content is really what we were expecting. Of course, it's going to be more interesting if it's a real application and not just some fixed data and then checking the other side. And we can also check that the headers, the content type in the headers is the application JSON. And similarly in the routes 2, so when it's 2, I check the different content and the content type, which is now includes the UTF-8 as well. And in the subtest 3 here, we are again checking that application JSON. That, if you recall, that was a different way of sending in the data. So that's it basically, how you can send JSON data back in case you would like to build an API for your model. And actually you can also set the default to be this content type. So if you, instead of setting the content type on everything, you would like to have it as a default, but because you can easily do this this way, so you can say send JSON, then it's gonna be automatic basically. Okay, so that's it for this video.